15 American roads freeze into something so deadly that truckers who have driven everything else still refuse to touch them once winter sets in. And think about what that actually means for a second. Some of these are ice roads in the truest sense. Frozen water a few feet thick, stretched over a lake or a river deep enough to swallow your whole truck. And drivers still roll 80,000 pounds across them, because in winter, it is the only way through. So today we're counting down 15 ice roads and frozen highways so deadly that truckers refuse to drive them. Let's get into it. Here's what makes a frozen road different from every other kind of dangerous road. On dry pavement, your skill and your brakes still mean something. On ice, they do not. Black ice is invisible, so the road looks completely clear right up until your drive tires break loose. And once 80,000 pounds start sliding on a grade, there is no pedal on that truck that will save you. These are the 15 worst in America, counting down to the one that has killed more truckers than any winter road in the country. Number 15. Kuskokwim River Ice Road, Alaska. We start in western Alaska on the Kuskokwim River, which freezes every winter into a 500-mile highway, the only link between villages that have no roads at all. Here's what matters. This is a living river under your tires, and moving, water eats the ice from below where you cannot see it. Drivers deal with overflow, slush hiding under a thin crust, and warm spots near the current that can drop a truck without warning. Now, to be fair, the locals who run this ice their whole lives read it better than any outsider ever could. But every winter the river takes someone who trusted a stretch that looked solid, and looking solid is exactly the trap. Number 14. Siskiyou Summit, Interstate 5. Oregon, now we get off the frozen water and onto frozen pavement, starting on Interstate 5 at Siskiyou Summit, near the California line, which sits on the steepest grade on the entire interstate highway system. Here's what matters. This is the only real route up the West Coast spine, so every load has to climb it. And in winter, that 6% grade glazes over, and Oregon's chain law kicks in. Southbound out of the summit is a long, committed descent, where the grade signs stop being information and start being instructions. Now, to be fair, it is a maintained interstate with chain-up areas and plows. But a loaded truck on a 6% sheet of ice does not care how good you are. And when Siskiyou closes, the whole coast backs up behind it. Number 13, Cabbage Hill, Interstate 84, Oregon. It has a second name that tells you everything, Deadman Pass, where Interstate 84 falls off the Blue Mountains into Pendleton. Here's what matters, and the state's own numbers say it out loud. On this hill, 78% of the commercial vehicle crashes involve out-of-state carriers, and 59% are caused by brake failure. It is a 6% grade through switchbacks ending in a double hairpin with truck advisory speeds as low as 18 miles an hour, and in winter, the fog and black ice hide those corners completely. Now, to be fair, Oregon built brake check areas, runaway ramps, and warning signs that practically grab your collar. But you cannot sign your way out of ice, and Cabbage keeps that second name for a reason. Number 12, Snoqualmie Pass, Interstate 90, Washington. This is the main door in and out of Seattle, Interstate 90 over the Cascades, and from November to April, it decides whether freight moves at all. Here's what matters. Snoqualmie gets over 400 inches of snow a year. The chain law flips on and off with the weather, and the pass shuts down for avalanche control with almost no notice, stranding lines of trucks for hours. When it ices over, that steady climb becomes a wall of brake lights blooming out of the fog on glass. Now, to be fair, Washington fights this pass harder than almost any road in the country. But a road that can close on you with no warning and ices under 80,000 pounds when it is open owns your entire schedule every winter. Number 11, Monteagle, Interstate 24, Tennessee. Down in the southeast, Interstate 24 crosses the Cumberland Plateau over a grade so feared that country singers wrote songs about it. Here's what matters. The eastbound descent drops over 1,100 feet in about 4 miles at 6%, and Tennessee takes it so seriously that every commercial truck is required to stop at an inspection station at the summit before it is allowed to go down. Now add a coat of southern ice, the kind the South never salts fast enough, And remember that both runaway ramps sit on the left side, so a driver who loses his brakes has to cross traffic to reach his own rescue. Now, to be fair, that mandatory brake check has saved lives. But an iced 6% grade on a road most drivers underestimate is exactly how Monteagle earned its reputation. Number 10. Wolf Creek Pass, US 160. Colorado runs an actual public campaign begging truckers to respect this one, and they call it Beware the Wolf. Here's what matters. US Route 160 crosses the Continental Divide here at over 10,000 feet, then drops on a sustained steep grade with hairpins that hold trucks to 25 miles an hour. And all winter it is buried in feet of snow and glazed with ice. Miss that speed, and the runaway ramps are waiting. Now, to be fair, the state will not even ticket you for using an escape ramp. They just want you alive at the bottom. But when a highway department has to name a marketing campaign after one single mountain, that mountain has earned every bit of your fear. Number 9. Loveland Pass, US 6, Colorado. This is the road you take when you are not allowed to take the safe one. Interstate 70 goes under the Rockies through the Eisenhower Tunnel, but hazmat loads are banned from that tunnel, so every fuel tanker and every placarded truck gets sent up and over the top instead on US 6 across Loveland Pass. Here's what matters. That is nearly 12,000 feet of exposed switchbacks above the tree line, in the wind, on ice, hauling the one load you least want to lose control of. The most dangerous cargo in the state gets assigned to the more dangerous road, and the drivers do not get a vote. Now, to be fair, they run it slow and in chains, but an iced switchback at 12,000 feet with a full tanker behind your cab is about as high stakes as this job gets. Number 8. The Grapevine, Interstate 5. California, Interstate 5 climbs out of Los Angeles over Tejon Pass on a 40-mile gauntlet, and it scares drivers two ways at once. Here's what matters. This pass sits just high enough to catch snow a few times a year in a state that does not own the reflexes for it, so when the ice comes, the highway patrol shuts the whole interstate and escorts traffic over in convoys, under a program they literally named Operation Snowflake. The main artery between LA and everything north of it closed by an inch of ice, and at the bottom waits the tool fog, thick enough that they run rolling roadblocks just to keep people from driving blind into a pileup. Now, to be fair, the closures exist to protect you, but when the busiest freight route in California freezes, thousands of trucks stack up with nowhere to go. Number 7. The Prudhoe Bay Ice Roads, Alaska. Back to the real thing, because up on Alaska's north slope, the oil fields run on ice roads built across the frozen tundra and out onto the frozen Arctic Ocean itself. Here's what matters. Read that again. Truckers drive on the ocean. Crews build these roads out of ice every winter to haul heavy rigs and equipment to the drilling sites. And sea ice moves, it shifts with the tide, it cracks, and the ground blizzards up there erase the whole world into white with no horizon and no up or down. Now, to be fair, these roads are engineered and monitored down to the inch because the stakes are exactly that high. But driving a loaded truck across the frozen Arctic Ocean, in the dark at 40 below, is the kind of thing most drivers will never do once, let alone for a living. Number 6. Donner Pass, Interstate 80, California. The name alone carries the heaviest story in American road history, from the wagon party that got trapped and starved up here in the winter of 1846. Here's what matters. Interstate 80 runs over that same Sierra shoulder today at over 7,000 feet, and this is where Pacific storms slam into the mountains and bury the road in snow measured by the yard. California's chain controls are a way of life here. The westbound descent turns into a sled run above Truckee, and every trucker has seen dash cam footage from this pass they wish they could unsee. Now, to be fair, Donner is manageable if you read the signs and chain up in time, but when Caltrans closes it, the main freight artery between Northern California and the rest of the country simply stops, and Reno fills up with stranded trucks like a parking lot. Number 5. The Dalton Highway, Alaska, the one most of you already know by name. The 414-mile haul road from Fairbanks to the oil fields at Prudhoe Bay, the road that made ice trucking famous. Here's what matters. It is mostly ice and packed snow all winter, climbing over Tejon Pass in the Brooks Range, where avalanches close the road, ground blizzards drop visibility to nothing, and the temperature hits 60 below. There is almost no cell coverage, almost no services, and the nearest help can be hours away in weather that is actively trying to kill you. Now, to be fair, it is a maintained public road and thousands of loads run it every winter. But it has earned its name as one of the deadliest roads in North America, and drivers treat every mile like it could be the one. Number 4. Interstate 70, the Colorado Rockies. The 90 miles between the Eisenhower Tunnel and Vail is the hardest sustained stretch of interstate in America, and winter turns it into a killer. Here's what matters. That tunnel sits at over 11,000 feet, the highest point on the entire interstate system, and the grade stacking up to it and falling away from it runs 6 and 7% for miles at Floyd Hill, at Straight Creek, over Vail Pass. The Straight Creek runaway ramp, just west of the tunnel, is the most heavily used truck escape ramp in the whole country. Now, to be fair, this corridor is plowed and patrolled around the clock. But when a driver lost his brakes here in 2019 and could not stop, 4 people died, and every winter the ice and the grade line up more trucks to try their luck on a road the entire national freight map still has to use. Number 3, Madeline Island Ice Road, Wisconsin. Yes, there is a real ice road in the lower 48, and it runs across Lake Superior from Bayfield to Madeline Island, about 2.5 miles straight over the frozen lake. Here's what matters. When the ferry cannot run and the ice is not thick enough for a plane, the community marks a road across the lake with old Christmas trees and drives cars and trucks over open, deep, freezing water. Lake Superior is brutal. Its ice shifts and cracks and never freezes evenly, and vehicles have gone through. Now, to be fair, they test it constantly and close it the moment it turns. But a road you drive across one of the deepest, coldest lakes in America, marked by dead pine trees, is not something most truckers will ever agree to. Number 2, Lake of the Woods Ice Roads, Minnesota, up on the Canadian border. The resorts plow ice roads for miles out onto this giant frozen lake so vehicles can reach the fishing grounds, and trucks and haulers use them all winter long. Here's what matters. Minnesota loses vehicles through lake ice almost every single winter, and Lake of the Woods and lakes like Mille Lacs are where it happens. When a pressure ridge shifts or a warm spell quietly rots a spot that was solid the day before. Now, in fairness, the ice roads are marked, and the good outfits test the thickness constantly. But the ice was fine last week is written on a lot of headstones up here, and a heavy truck is the last thing that frozen lake wants sitting on top of it. Number 1, Interstate 80, southern Wyoming. And here's the twist that ties this whole list together. You spent this entire countdown waiting for the most exotic, dramatic ice road at the top, and the deadliest one in America turns out to be a plain interstate you cannot avoid, between Laramie and Rawlins, past a place called Elk Mountain. Here's what matters. Wyoming's own road agency describes the whole state as basically one 400-mile mountain pass. And this stretch runs over 8,000 feet, where the wind does not even need fresh snow. It lifts old snow off the ground and turns a clear afternoon into a whiteout in minutes, over black ice you cannot see. And that is the horror of it. The road looks completely clear. Then dozens of trucks pile into each other in a single afternoon, because everyone was doing 70 on a sheet of glass nobody could see. Now, to be fair, they close it constantly and post every warning they can. But you cannot close your way out of invisible ice on the one road every load in the country has to cross. The deadliest ice road in America is not some frozen lake at the top of the world. It is the interstate you will drive next winter, and it will look perfectly safe right up until it isn't. So that's the 15. From a frozen river in Alaska to a stretch of interstate in Wyoming that turns to glass without warning. And here's the truth underneath all of it. These drivers are not reckless. They are hauling the fuel, the food, and the freight this whole country runs on, over roads that spend half the year pretending to be safe and the other half trying to kill them. On every road here, the danger was never really the cold or the grade. It was the same thing over and over. A surface you trusted that quietly turned to ice and stopped being a road at all. Now it's your turn, and I really want to read these. What is the worst winter road you have ever white-knuckled in a truck? And would you run any of these? Or, flat out, refuse? Somebody scrolling these comments is about to face their first real ice, and your story might be the thing that keeps them out of the ditch. And if this one had you gripping the wheel, subscribe. It is free, and it will never leave you sliding. Until next time, keep the rubber side down, the shiny side up, and slow down before the ice does it for you.